Hello, and welcome to the music production assignment demonstration of the track for our third year music production class. This is just going to be a basic quick rundown of the elements and the production techniques used in this track. Firstly, I'd like to start by saying using groups is a very efficient production technique for kind of keeping everything in one group, and also allows you to control, it leaves more control and also allows the process of many similar elements as a whole. This group has a three-way frequency split. On the low end, sidechain compression mapped to the kick. Mid-range, just a bit of saturation, sidechain compression with a little bit less of a the threshold backed off a little bit, and then on the top end just a little bit of saturation just to brighten up the bass a little touch. Very, very minimal amounts, doesn't really affect the sound too much because less is more essentially. For the two basses, I've used the Reaktor synth. If we just solo this one here and have a quick listen, kind of deep house-ish style kind of bass sound. The second one is also developed in Reaktor. Yeah, just another bass house kind of sound. If we solo that, with the use of a ADSR envelope on the filter, with a lot of resonance to give it a bit more of a bitey sound. Just a bit of EQ, cut off the highs and lows, and just a dip in the middle. Same for the other one. And just the use of a little bit of overdrive and saturation on each individual track as well. I think it all, little bits here and there, all add up to making a better sound. I've also used a sub. This sub is comprised of operator, just two sine waves, one modulating the other. This modulator is at 0.5, so it's half of the frequency of the initial, and just adds a little bit of low end rumble. Yeah, very subtle, but definitely makes a difference. Yeah, so that's it for the bass group. The leads comprised of an FM8, fairly wild construction, couple of sines, soft, kind of wavy sine. Fifth formant just creates a kind of sine pad sound. If we solo that there. And the lead group also has a little bit of EQ, glue compression, saturation, and the compression, sidechain compression as well. I've also used this auto filter to tidy up some, or to low pass some of the elements so that it climbs into the start of the track, and also ducks down a little bit just coming into the choruses and tucks off a little bit of the high end. The other elements of the leads are, this is a massive patch I created. Basically, it's a kind of flute sounding pluck, hence the name. Basically math 2 and a square saw, but put the wavetable positions all the way over to the right, and is pitched up 12 semitones, so a full octave up from the initial, and it sounds a bit like this. Basically, just uses a envelope on the cutoff of the low pass filter, a little bit of resonance to give it a bit more bite, and I set a macro, but I never actually used it in the finish. A second macro here, just something I was messing around with, never kind of mounted anything. Also dimension expander, kind of pseudo reverb, chorus and a reverb. The second one is more of a delayed pluck sound. Use of a delay and a reverb again, well, delay again, reverb again, and the delay. Low pass filter, envelope, just to add a bit of percussive element, up 24 and up 12, with a B pulse and a sine square all the way over to the square saw, and all the way over to the saw. And I've also used the Reaktor instrument again here. Just another simple pluck kind of sound, adds a bit more thickness to the track. And I've also used this operator patch here, just a couple of sine waves and a square wave modulating a sine wave. Basically very simple sound, but with a couple of implementations of the chord effect, gives a bit more sonic character, and also the delay, applying the Haas effect, gives it a bit more. Oh, apologies. yeah, just gives a bit more widening using the Hass effect, and thickens up the sound using a chord. The drums, basically, Fab Filter, just quick EQ, cutouts on the mids, add a bit of boost to the bass, quick bit of compression, low ratio, don't overdo it basically, and a little bit of glue compression to glue all the elements together. Long attack, almost fairly long release. Also a bit of overdrive to just brighten up the top end to give it a bit more saturation with the saturator as well. Auto filter to duck out some of the elements, obviously coming into the chorus again, same as the lead track. I've used a kick sample layered with a 909 kick, gives it a bit more top end, and just lets it fight through the mix a little bit better. Same with the snare, use a snare, 909 snare, layer with a clap. And the clap is just a couple milliseconds beforehand, and I've also used the track delays to separate out these. Actually, that should be +5 to kind of create that pseudo flamming kind of that's characteristic to the house genre. Also, hi-hat closed loop. Just did a quick bit of duplicated that last hit and pitched it down just a semitone, just to get a bit more variation, or 2 semitones in this one. Grip a bit more variation. Also added that with a 909 hash. Very simple rhythm with a swung groove. And followed on top of that, I used a 909 cymbal layered with a reverse cymbal to give a kind of swoosh effect coming into certain transitions of the track. And I've also used a Kontakt djembe and used a bit of velocity modulations, well, velocity changing to create a more humanistic feel for this one. Okay, so just a bit of EQ and a compression to bring up the levels of it. I've also used a couple of samples here to create a bit of a drum fill coming into the transitions of the track. And for the second transition towards the end of the chorus, I've also duplicated that sample and pitched it down 3 semitones to make it sound more like a realistic drum kit, same way a drummer would play a fill going into a different section. The FX section, initially just a bit of sidechain compression, a little bit of saturation overdrive, glue compressor, glue all the elements together, and a little bit of simple EQ just to tuck out some of the mids. Auto filter again to duck off some of the high frequencies coming into the chorus, and this is a reactor synth that I just basically made a white noise sweep. Oh, sorry, if I solo that. So basically just kind of a staccato run that kind of comes off the end of it. I thought it kind of had a nice sound to the track. Also just a couple of samples, quick riser, or downfall, apologies. And some white noise sounds, and just a couple of different elements to add a bit more interest to the breakdown of the track leading into the chorus. Just adds a bit of variety to the build up to the track, lets you know that something's coming. I've also recorded these swoops from a MC909. Added a bit more to the drum fills that are in the transitions as well. On top of that, there's the pad section, just rolled off some of the low end. This is like pads and Atmos kind of stuff, so it's kind of more toppy stuff anyways. Bit of compression to kind of tidy everything up, and a bit of glue compression to glue it all together, and then an auto filter as well for the coming into the choruses. Again, same as the other elements, just another element to basically tell you that something's coming, kind of tension release kind of element for the track. The Atmos was 2 field recordings I got from a local park. Oh, apologies. After discussing with my tutor, we decided that it might be beneficial to create some kind of a rhythmic development that happens so that it doesn't just stay organic all the way through. It kind of gives you this lead into the track so that it actually creates a bit of a rhythm. So I think it's very effectively used in this track. I've also recorded in a little bit of acoustic guitar, just basically arpeggios, kind of arpeggio, kind of manipulation, or noodling. So yeah, just a little bit of reverb applied onto it, and glue compression, utility just to modulate the volume as it goes through the track, give it a bit more interest. Also recorded a vocal, just a lot of limiting on the vocal, just glue compression to kind of keep it controlled, and a bit of EQ, cut off the lows and highs, and duck out some of the kind of breathier, low subby elements of the vocal, as I've pitched it down 6 semitones. So, oh, apologies. Let's see, solo this.
So you wanna move? Go ahead and get down.
So you wanna move? Go ahead and get down.
So you wanna move?
So basically, yeah, just a quick vocal phrase, throwback to the old deep house kind of tracks.
Get down.
Yeah, just a repetitive kind of phrase just to give a bit more interest to the track, followed by a couple more pads. Basically just a reactor pad I created, just a little patch. Just have a quick listen to that there. Just basically a couple of squares and signs, just a bit of small bit of FM applied to some of the elements, gives it kind of more bell sound, with especially with the ADSR mod, just using a bit of decay to add a bit of more of a plucky sound, bit of detune spread, and a slow attack for that kind of classic pad sound. And I've also played in a bit of a MC909 patch that was developed for this track as well. Just to give a bit more interest for the breakdown. 3 different types of reverb, very short reverb, mostly for drums and elements. The medium reverb, just a little bit longer reverb times, pull back a little bit of the reflection diffuse as the times progress. Finally, a long reverb, 1.23 seconds decay time, slightly bigger room size, and a bit more of the reflection and decay diffuse taken off it. Kind of stops the top end from getting too cloudy. Also a 3/4 delay, just to add a bit more delay to some of the elements like the vocal and the guitar. Yeah, just get a bit more interest to the track. Also a parallel compression, ducked out some of the mids, boosting the low and tops, glue compressor to glue everything together, and some saturation. Pull back the utility, just the 3 dB. Thought it was getting a bit too much for the track, so I pulled that back a bit. Just a bit of overdrive, very subtle amounts, and a bit of really short reverb just to add that element to it as well. Just adds a bit more impression to the track and kind of amps up all the other elements. This is just an overdrive just to amplify or accentuate the low frequencies of the track, low drive, low tone. Just basically adds a bit of something to the low end, just saturates it a little bit. Very subtle again, less is more always. Yeah, just I think it adds a lot to the track and gives it that low end rumble that it needs to be kind of more professional production. Exponential delay, max per live patch that I created, basically a filter feedback filter delay with a depth amount that basically is a warble to kind of replicate the old school tape delays, and a bit of bit rate and sample rate reduction that can be used, but it wasn't actually used in this track. It's basically just amplifies delays coming into the transition for the chorus, so just adds a bit of something to the track. Basically just a quick delay, adds a bit more variety to the track, also just to duck off the ends here so that it doesn't overpower coming into that final bit of the track. Finally, just a little bit of EQ, no more boost than 2 plus or minus 2 on these elements. Cut a bit of 5k just to get rid of some of the harshness and just tidy everything up. Bit of compression, very short attack or release, mostly for peak catching, and same for the limiter, and boost up the overall volume of the track. I also use a spectrum analyzer, which definitely gives you kind of a visual feedback of where you should be with a lot of things. It's something that you get used to over the time with production. And I've also used this, which is a
So you want
basically just a mono plugin. It's just a utility with the width dropped all the way down to 0. Mono referencing is very important for especially producing electronic music, because most of the playback sources are going to be heard in mono, whether it's a club or an iPhone or a set of laptop speakers, or even just being far enough away that they're in another room that it's just going to sound in mono anyways. So basically just so obviously you can hear everything folding into mono and then being released back out, just to make sure that nothing disappears and nothing gets lost in the mix. Just basic referencing. Another quick trick I did was to the track delays on the drums, just to add a bit more groove, pushing certain elements forward and back. Can be overdone, can be detrimental to a track, and can do damage, but obviously used in moderation can do quite good for a track. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope I explained all the elements of this track properly, and I hope you enjoyed the track as well. Thank you very much for your time.